Right. We will get this meeting called to order. The Water and Sewer Authority of Cabarrus County, October 19th, 2023. Looks like we have a quorum. So we will call the meeting to order. Our first order of business, unfinished business. Minutes from September 21st, 2023. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second. That was a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. All right, we'll move on to new business. Ed, you're gonna bring us GMP.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, before I jump into my my agenda item here, I want to take a moment to introduce our new engineer. So, all right, you can stand up. So I came to work, what, 2 months ago?
Yeah.
Around 2 months ago, hit the ground running. So your staffs are probably gonna be hearing from her quite a bit. She's taken over a lot of the flow acceptance, flow tracking responsibilities, really helping Thomas out immensely there. Letting Thomas stay even more focused on the construction projects and keeping them moving along. So she's been a great addition to the team, and so just wanted to introduce her and
Welcome.
Thank you.
all right, so as you said, I'm here for another GMP on phase 4. We're continuing to progress with the project. We have another GMP that was put together by Crowder and our engineer to continue to purchase some long lead time items. These were some items that when we developed GMP1 were not quite there design wise to be able to include in the GMP1 package. In the last 2 months, they've got further along with those designs, finalized some cost proposals and everything to be able to include now a GMP for those. So these items include items like the group removal equipment, aeration basing, mixing equipment, some more pumps, surge tanks for the pump station, and some other items that are just, you know, in those year-long lead time type items that we want to get on site as quick as we can. This total for GMP2 is a little over $13 million. And it was attached with the packet for review. So if you don't have any questions on that or any of the other GMPs or phase 4, anything to do with those.
Questions for Chad?
I will say we get comments multiple times. Our contractor is very, very thankful for the willingness of the board to work and consider different GMPs and keep things moving. And they've taken very serious of staying on schedule, meeting schedule, and they really appreciate WSACC staff and WSACC board working with them to help them along that. So that is something in most meetings is brought up at some point of how helpful that has been for them with staying on budget, keeping the project moving.
Any other questions, comments? All right, do I hear a motion to approve the phase 4 expansion? Number 2, motion and a second. Any discussion? Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I gotta pay for it, Wendy.
Asking that you approve the budget amendment for the 13.1 GMP. That'll bring us almost $42 million for that in that fund. Now, I guess with that additional GMP, and we're budgeting, of course, revenue bonds and then Charlotte Water contributions to make for that.
Any questions about the budget amendment from Wendy? I hear a motion to approve that budget amendment.
So moved.
Second. A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion carries. Thank you. All right, stay right where you're at. Financial report.
Glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Have any questions for Wendy about the financial report? Hearing none. Thomas, an update on the expansion.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we have a presentation like we do most months on the expansion. So I have a few continuing items. Some of these items have been in progress for months, so you'll notice some familiar ones maybe and some new ones. They are continuing piping installation, including the 42-inch pipe, which is quite a production. Getting across there between the different equalization basin related items. They're continuing leak test and crack injection on the equalization basin walls. So it's been nice to see that basin almost finished. They are starting placement of walkways around that basin as well. They are continuing air piping, pipe supports and diffuser grids over at aeration basin number 6. Continuing work for the new effluent flume. The siding for the blower building is completed at this point. They are continuing some miscellaneous electrical work almost done at the maintenance canopy. They have recently started concrete placement at the gravity thickeners. And as we always highlight, the team has continued to work to mitigate issues with sourcing equipment for phase 3 and the electrical upgrades effort. Primarily for both of those, that's related to electrical equipment itself. A few pictures. This is the NEF and EQ basin as of this morning. So I believe the basin itself was standing last month when the board meeting was out at the plant. But this shows the handrail installation going along and the walkway around the perimeter as well out there. Aeration basin 6, they're continuing air piping. They're actually starting to install some instruments out there. Some electrical pulling wires to these basins, and that diffuser grid is basically complete at this point. It's down in the bottom. Blower building, you can see all the siding on the blower building. We've got a couple pictures inside as well. This is quite a building. So this is from one end looking back towards the electrical room. You can see some of the pipe supports down there. We do have the blowers on site for this building, which that's a good thing. So they're getting all the pipe supports in, getting ready to set the blowers and the air piping inside that building. A couple a little closer there for the air pipe supports. So that air piping will start at the blowers inside the building and will carry air to the outside of the building and to aeration basin number 6. Gravity thickeners. You can see the burlap here as they pour the slabs for both thickeners there. They are starting on their vertical wall forming and reinforcing steel here next week, they told us this morning. Flume 103, they actually started today putting some platforms up there. It looks nice with the platforms on it to provide some access. Next week, they're going to be starting some tie-in work for that flume. They're having to cut into an existing pipe, and it's some pretty intricate work there. They've got a good plan. We feel good about the efforts there. So for the next month, they will finish concrete at the EQ influent and effluent meter vaults, continue leak testing and pipe installation and backfill, start backfill at the EQ basin. Begin installing instrumentation and pulling wire. They've actually started that as of this week. Finishing handrail at aeration basin 6. Continuing piping work and that platform work that I talked about at the Flume 103. The maintenance canopy should be about done here, hopefully in the next month. Reinforcing steel and concrete placement. Again, they're going up with the walls at this point at the gravity thickeners. They'll continue buried piping installation around the site, throughout the site really. And continue installing equipment and air piping and supports at the blower building and their electrical terminations. They're pulling wire and terminating lots of places. So that's exciting as well to be to that point. So with that, I'll be happy to take any questions you might have.
Thomas, what's the schedule on the concrete placement for early? And I'm just kind of asking because of the weather, it's starting to get cold.
Sure, sure. They should. I'm not sure on their, they've got a new sub that's coming in, subcontractor for forming and reinforcing those walls. I haven't seen them work. They're supposed to get started this coming week on that. So depending on their speed, I would expect the next month or so that they'll be into that. There are cold weather concrete provisions, of course, so they'll, if they get into that, they'll use those.
On a couple of the pictures. Would that be back there?
Yes, sir. I can go back to that one.
A couple of them that
You mentioned EQ backfill. I was curious.
Sure, so that one, so you can see, if I can use the pointer here. There we go. Okay, so over here, you can kind of see the top of the slope right there. There is a natural top of the slope in that area. And so backfill will come in around that structure, but it won't be backfilled to the walkway up there. So we'll have a set of stairs, and then that walkway with the handrail around the top will be, the handrail will be needed because you'll still be at some height above the ground up there. So the slope kind of falls from left to right in this picture.
But definitely over the next couple of months, that area is gonna look very different.
Yes,
It's gonna look very different.
right.
Other questions? Okay, thank you, Thomas.
Yes, sir.
You give us an update on the master plan.
Yes, no presentation for this, but did want to include a few bullet points for the master plan itself. There are 5 tasks in the master plan. We talked about some before. 3 of those are complete. Those have to do with the existing system evaluation, future growth planning, and the water resources analysis. Those are all complete at this point. What they are working on, continuing to work on, is MPDES permitting. So our permit for expanding the plant, getting speculative limits for that. They are working on that now. Where they are on that, they have submitted their stream modeling report to the state. They modeled the entire Rocky River, 90 something miles of the Rocky River. They've submitted that report. We have had calls with the state, with Tetra Tech and Black and Veatch. Tetra Tech and Black and Veatch know what the state wants as far as revisions, and they're planning to submit those by early November. Hopefully end of October if they can get there. The state is very busy with reviewing. They've got a lot of these models coming in, it sounds like, so we hope for good results there since we have been coordinating with the state on those things. As far as capacity assessments and our capital improvement project list is concerned, they've completed a lot of work there. We're almost finalized with the technical memorandum on that has a list of all our capital projects that they recommend. We're going to be working with that. We've got kind of a preliminary version of that list we're already working with internally here. Black and Veatch will be finalizing their documentation for that coming up. And then lastly, the overall kind of wrapping up the master plan, they're working on some of those things. So the master plan, with the exception of the permit, which will kind of continue a little bit afterwards. So they are going to be continuing to develop dashboards. They've got some interactive dashboards that we can use for things like flow acceptance, flow tracking, and capital improvement projects. They're working on those, and then the overall set of documentation for the report that we'll be in.
We were talking about doing the stream modeling last month. They had indicated that was still in process and that we were actually getting some help from for payment because Mooresville's interaction with Rocky River and maybe another municipality. I'm not sure if I remember who it was.
Right.
But do we anticipate those municipalities using this information to do the same for their capacities?
Yes, the state will use this model. The state is anxious to get this model, even though they're kind of backed up on reviewing other models. They want to use this model as a basis for setting permit limits throughout this basin. So for us to get our permit limits, our speculative limits, the state required us to do this effort, but they will use this model for utilities throughout the basin there.
So will the other municipalities' capacity requests affect ours?
So we've got I guess it's seems to be kind of first come, first serve with that to an extent. They've got some speculative limits that are already provided to those different utilities. So when the stream modeling report is finalized and the stream model is finalized, our consultant will plug in those speculative limits that have already been issued to different utilities throughout the basin. And then they will model the river and they will assess the limits that they believe as the consultant are appropriate for our facility. We'll review that with them and then we'll share that with the state.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that we get to 34 and then Mooresville decides to do an expansion and we can't go past 36. Yeah.
Sure, yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, there's always effects with that, but it really impacts the most if you're close together. Like if you have multiple discharge points close together, because everything operates off how much, call it sag in the river. When you discharge, how much does that pull down DO? How much does that pull down different things? And how long does it take for the river to recover? Because all we're essentially doing at the plant's what the river's doing. We're just doing it in a controlled environment much faster. So if you're close, like Mooresville's 30 miles upstream, much different. So it does affect, but I don't think we have a big concern there long term. Right. And a big thing too, when you go to get your permit, you have to prove to the state, we went through this at Muddy Creek, you have to prove to the state that you need that permit, that the growth is coming. So it's not like the town of Oakborough can say, well, we know we're going to grow one day and we want to get a 10 million gallon a day discharge permit. So we have it. You can't do that. You have to show that in the next 20 years or so, you're going to actually need that much capacity. And that prevents people from holding that capacity. They don't really need it.
Thomas, I feel like I should know this, but when this is completely wrapped up, is there a final educational component? Are there any presentations that WSAC is planning on doing, or will there be materials that we can provide to our board to help them digest at a very high level, kind of where we are?
Yes, so we've started that effort kind of at the staff level with providing the memoranda that have been finalized so far. I mean, there's a lot in the weeds there, but yes, we plan to have kind of an overall set of training, both at the staff level, and then we could carry that to a board level if we, if desired.
Good.
And that is part of the scope for Black and Deep.
One.
Sure. So with the exception of the speculative limits request, Black and Veatch told us again this week that they are on schedule for completion of these other tasks by the end of the year. So the dashboards, the capital improvement project list is almost done. So that should be in the next couple of weeks here. But the dashboards are and the overall documentation kind of goes out to the end of the year.
Can you send out maybe you already did, I missed it, the presentation from the last meeting? The PowerPoint,
Sure.
you send that to the board?
Absolutely.
I thought it was well done and gives you a good flavor of where we're headed, so.
Okay.
Other questions?
Yes, sir.
All right, we will open up the meeting for public comments. If there's anybody here that wishes to speak. Seeing nothing but staff. So, roll on. Close that portion of the meeting. I need a motion to go into closed session under GS 143, 318, 11, A1, 4, and A6.
Move.
Second.